on the back of your phone, your mirror, your dashboard, your forehead, I don't know, wherever you're going to see this all the time as a reminder to pray. And we're going to talk about what to be praying for today a little bit more. But that's a sticker for you. Got some more out there if you want more stickers. If you're a sticker person, I don't know. You got this right here. There's a little bookmark. What's this a reminder for? To pray. Pray, 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 man. We cannot go through a spiritual journey without connecting to Jesus. And so there is a prayer bookmark for you to keep in your Bibles, to keep in your journey guide, to keep track of where you are for your devotionals, whatever. But this is a reminder to pray. Also, you have this on your seat. I'm going to talk more about this a little bit later, but keep track of that. If you don't have one of these little wristbands, put that on because it's a reminder to what? Pray. And to remind yourself that you're made for more than just walking through each day, making a living and going to bed, but you're made for something eternal. And then I want to show you don't have one of these. I do. But you can have one if you'd like. We are starting today for the next 7 days, kicking off 7 days of prayer. And this is what we want you to engage in. One is to remind yourself to pray because of the bookmark. Another thing is to remind yourself to pray by sticking this little sticker somewhere. And this is a little trifold thing that tells you about how to pray for this. And it's actually it takes you on a prayer walk around our campus. There are 10 different stations. And so you can grab one of these because there is going to be, the first station is right here by the sanctuary. And there's right outside of the sanctuary, there's going to be, right at the double doors you came in today, there's going to be this mailbox. And there's going to be a bunch of these in the mailbox. And so sometime this afternoon as you're leaving church, pick one up and walk through the campus and pray. At each point on the prayer walk, there are specific things to be praying for on our campus, for the hearts of people, for people to come to know Jesus. And so pick one of these up, and if you can't do it today, come tomorrow morning, come tomorrow afternoon, come tomorrow night. Anytime in the next 7 days, this box is going to be out there. These bulletins will be there, and you take a nice little walk through our campus, and at each point, you stop, and you pray, and you pray, and you pray. All right? You got it? How many are with me on that? You going to do that? Everybody? Very good. So you can pick one of these up in the lobby at the Made for More table, or you can come when you're doing your prayer walk and pick one up out of our fancy little mailbox there. So we got all that going on. So has everybody got your journey guides? Open them up to page, well, there's no page numbers. Don't open up to page. It's to Leaving a Legacy, all right? That's what we're on today, the sermon for November 10th. All right, so as we are taking this faith journey to see, God, how can you expand our faith? How can you use us for something more significant in this life? We are looking at the life of Moses and Israel as God takes the people of Israel and Moses on a faith journey to get out of Egypt and into the promised land. And so each week we're going to be walking a little further with the nation of Israel and with Moses as they go through that and see how it parallels our own faith and our own journey as a church and the path that God has for us. And so this morning, I would like you to open up your Bibles to Exodus chapter 4, and we're going to be starting in verse 27. Exodus chapter 4, verse 27. Where we were is from last week is God has spoken to Moses out in the wilderness. And he's out there, the burning bush happens, and God says to Moses, I want you to help free my people from Egypt. And Moses comes up with all sorts of excuses, all sorts of reasons why he can't. God finally says, you know what, Moses, I am going to use you. You're going to do it. He convinces Moses. Moses grabs Aaron, and Moses and Aaron go to the leaders of the nation of Israel in Egypt and tell them the message that God has for them. And so right now we're going to kind of read what the response of the leaders of Israel were to the message from Moses. Exodus chapter 4, verse 27. Said, the Lord said to Aaron, go into the wilderness to meet Moses. So he went and met him at the mountain of God and kissed him. And Moses told Aaron all the words of the Lord with which he had sent him to speak and all the signs that he had commanded him to do. Then Moses and Aaron went and gathered together all the elders of the people of Israel. Aaron spoke all the words that the Lord had spoken to Moses and did the signs in the sight of the people. And the people believed. All right, people. That's good, right? All those elders, all those people, they believed. And when they heard that the Lord had visited the people of Israel, that the Lord was going to get them out, that the Lord was going to bring freedom to them, and that he had seen their affliction, they bowed their heads and worshiped. They were excited for the journey, and they were excited for the destination. They said, man, we can hardly wait to be free and to get to this land that God has promised us. We can hardly wait. God, thank you so much. And they believed, they bowed their heads, and they worshiped. They were all in because they were excited about the destination. Have you ever been excited to go somewhere? My wife, Jenny, and I, we had never been back east, and we had planned a trip last year, about a year ago today or so. And we were going to be visiting Washington, D.C., New York, and Boston. I was particularly excited about seeing New York. You see scenes of New York in all the movies and all that sort of stuff. And so we took out for this journey. And one of the big things about traveling, if you know, you got to keep your suitcases under 50 pounds, right? That is a challenge for one of us in our family. But we made it. But right at that, we had a 50-pound suitcase and another one that weighed less. I won't tell you whose is whose. But we had this trip because we were taking off for all these times. And so we packed everything up. We took the airplane, landed in Washington, D.C., saw everything in Washington, D.C., then took the train to New York. And we were going to take the train into Grand Central Station. I was excited about New York. Wanted to get there, and we're like, oh man, I can hardly wait. We're going to get into Grand Central Station. That's going to be fun. And then we're going to find our little Airbnb thing we had and going on. And so we get out at Grand Central Station, and we don't know how to get to the Airbnb. And we're like, well, okay, we have the address, but I have no idea. And so we called an Uber. Well, by the time we got out and figured our way out of Grand Central Station, we got out on the streets of New York. I can't tell east from west and north from south because all there is these ginormous buildings blotting out the sun. And so we were supposed to go to this one spot. And I'm like, I have no idea. So we started running down the road because it was there. So we started running down the street, and we realized we're running the wrong way. And so we ran back the other way, and we got there to our Uber 30 seconds late. I saw the guy. He's sitting there in his car, and I go, oh, good, he's still there. I knock on the window. He doesn't even turn his head. And so I knock a little harder and knock a little harder and knock a little, and finally he rolls down the window, and he goes, you were late. And I'm here now, 30 seconds. Policy, I can't let you in the car. I'm like, I don't know what your name is, but I'm really mad at you right now. And I was standing on the streets of New York looking like a tourist goober with my suitcases and obviously I don't belong in New York City. And so we're sitting there, and he will not pick us up. I'm like, can you drive around the block? We'll call you again, and we'll stay right. Can't do that. And he just took off. Now I'm standing there with Jenny, and this is lame. And right now my frustration level is right about here. So we call another person. He comes, he picks us up, he takes us and we had gotten this Airbnb on the Lower East Side in this 5-story walk-up. You know what a 5-story walk-up is? It is, all I know is, it's a staircase that's about this narrow. If you're walking up, you're like this. You're literally just turning circles getting up this thing. And mind you, one of us had a really heavy suitcase. And I couldn't carry both of them at once, so I'm winding myself up, and as you get up higher, because we're on the 5th floor of the 5-story walk-up. And so I get up there, and I put the suitcase down, and I go down, and I pick up the other suitcase, and you're like putting it around the corner, and you get to the end of this hall, and I go, we're here. I'm sweating profusely, and my frustration level now is about here. And so we found the key in the lockbox, and we turned the key, and nothing happened. The lock is stuck. I can't get it. Jenny, why don't you try it? Because maybe I'm lame with keys. She couldn't get it. We're trying over and over and over. So we're like, oh, man. So we called the owner. She's out of town. We called the manager. Doesn't answer. So now I run back down the 5-story, find find a hotel that maybe we could rent, but it's like astronomical amount of money. I'm like, where are we going to stay? We can't just live in this hallway because it's really hot and gross. And now my frustration level's about here. And I'm just like, oh, we finally got in. But at that point, this great destination of New York I was super pumped about, I'm like, why did we even come here? I don't want to be in New York anymore. This is lame. I don't like this. You see, I was super excited about getting to New York. I was pumped about the destination, but I was unaware of the sacrifices and the frustrations that would come along the journey to get there. And here's where we're going with this is that the nation of Israel, the leaders heard, hey, God is going to deliver you out of Egypt, take you to the promised land. They believed God. They bowed down. They worshiped. They were excited. And then they started taking the journey. And then they began to experience frustration. They began to experience setbacks. And at some points along the journey, they literally said, we would have been better off if we had just stayed. The juice ain't worth the squeeze. Right? All the work it takes to get what we want, I don't know if we can do that. And you see, I believe that God is taking us to a place as Simi Community Church where the destination is beautiful, where people by more and more are coming to faith in Jesus Christ. We are seeing lives and marriages and families transform because they meet Jesus Christ. And so are we going to have the faith to not just at the beginning say, yay, God, this is going to be great, but realize that along the pathway, it's going to take some work, it's going to take some faith. I want us to look a little bit more at this whole thing because it's really about us leaving a legacy. As we've noticed in the video, as you heard in the video, we are over 50 years ago, there were a people of faith who were at this church who began it, who built these facilities that we're sitting in today, where people have come to faith in Jesus Christ, where our lives are being changed. And they left a legacy for us. And now I believe it's our turn to leave a legacy for the next generation as well, and even for ourselves. And so we can leave a legacy, but there's two things that we need to know if we're going to leave a legacy, is that one, we have to have faith to finish. Not just faith to begin, but faith to finish. You see, Moses had a plan from God. He was bought in. Aaron met him. They were going for it. They talked to the people and all that sort of stuff. And the people were excited about the destination. They had enthusiasm. And then I don't know what they expected, but they didn't get what they expected on that journey. You see, what happened is, yay, we get to get out through, and I know this is like highly cliff noted, but God did some amazing things in Egypt. And then they got out. All right, so I passed all those plagues and everything like that. But God did amazing things in there, and things where the nation of Israel had to have some faith to accomplish it. And they finally get out, and they're like, yay, this is what we expected. We're out. This is it. We're here. And then they got to the Red Sea in Exodus 14, and they doubted God. They went, oh, this is hard. This took faith. We got the sea in front of us. We got Pharaoh behind us. We're going to die. And God said, no, you know what? Just one more step of faith. Step into that water. You're going to see it's going to part. But they doubted God. And then the very next chapter, in Exodus chapter 15, they get to the other side, and the water was bad. And they said, God, the water's bad. We can't do this. And they started to grumble and complain because this is hard. This is taking sacrifice. And then the very next chapter, they grumbled about the food. So now they grumble about the Red Sea. They grumbled about water. They grumbled about food. And then they disobeyed God by gathering too much. They went, well, maybe God's not going to be faithful to give us enough on one day for 2 days, and so we're going to gather extra. And God said, don't do that. Trust me. This is a journey of faith, remember? And then several chapters later, in Exodus chapter 32, Moses goes up on the mountain to receive the 10 Commandments, and the people go, well, he's gone a long time. I don't know if he's showing up again. So we better make another god. And so they assembled all of their jewelry, and they made a calf out of gold, and they began to bow down and worship that. Another Cliff Note version, God wasn't happy with that. God had some things to say about that. And then you go all the way to Numbers chapter 14, and they're about to enter the land, and they send in spies to the land to see what it's like, because they knew that in order to get to the land, they had to defeat some other people. And the spies come back and go, oh man, those people are ginormous. You haven't seen ginormous. These are all WWE type people, right? These are all linemen. These are huge. And the people went, oh God, look at that. You're right. If the people are big, we can't do it. This is awful. Now we've come all this way, and now we're just dead in the water because there's an obstacle. You know what happened to those people, right? God said, listen, you've grumbled, you've complained, you've doubted, you've disobeyed along this journey. I asked you on a journey of faith. And you had faith to begin, but you don't have the faith to finish. And the difference between faith to begin and faith to finish is that faith to finish takes into consideration that there is sacrifice along the way. If there is no sacrifice, there is no faith required. It's just something we can do on our own. There's nothing to trust God for. And so God said to them, you know what? You have to, and here's the second thing, if we're going to leave a legacy, not only do we have to have faith to finish, in other words, a faith that takes into consideration that there is sacrifice along the way, and then trust God for that each step of the way, but we need to be willing to sacrifice. You see, a journey of faith is necessarily not an easy journey. If it were easy, it wouldn't require faith. When God calls us to faith, He calls us to hard. And He calls us to sacrifice. It's part of the definition of faith. A lot of times we think, oh, I'm going to come to faith in Jesus Christ and I'm going to trust God. And when I do that, He's going to make everything easy. He's just going to bless me. He's just going to make everything smooth for me. And I think we have a wrong impression of what it means to be blessed. You see, when we sometimes think, oh, the blessing of God is health and wealth and prosperity and ease and comfort. And God says, no. See, I want to bless you. And so I'm going to call you to faith. I'm going to call you to sacrifice. I'm going to call you to hard. And the blessing that's going to come out is you're going to have spiritual wealth. You're going to have relational connection to Jesus like you've never had before. You're going to have significance and impact. Your life is going to mean something eternally because it's going to be lived with purpose. And I tell you, there's no greater joy than knowing that God is using you. Than knowing that God is that you've been willing to be used by God. I've told you in the last 6 months I've had the chance to share my faith in Christ with more people than I have in the last 6 years. Because I was willing to say, God, and pray, God, what more can you use me for? And with an open heart, not just words, just to begin to pray that, God has opened up opportunities because He saw an open heart. And that's really what I'm asking today is, will we as a church pray and say, God, what more can you use me for? I know my life is made for more than it currently is. I know you want to use me in greater ways. And so, God, what are you going to use me for? You see, obedience to God often takes sacrifice and is a demonstration of faith lived out. And if we think we're alone on this sacrifice and faith journey, we're not. Paul had to sacrifice a great deal. All the trials and the persecution that he went through is well chronicled in the book of Acts. Each of the disciples suffered for their faith. Each of the disciples that we could tell historically died martyrs' deaths for the cause of Christ. David was given a chance to give something to God, and he said, I will not consider giving something to God that costs me nothing. And so a lot of times we think, well, I'll just give over my excess to the Lord. And he says, no, I want you to sacrifice. Something that costs you nothing doesn't mean anything because it's not attached to your heart. It doesn't demonstrate that there's a heart that loves me and is committed over to me. You look at the widow who came and gave her very small amount into the offering box. And when Jesus looked, he said, listen, she gave more. You see, it's not the size of the gift that we give, but it's the size of the sacrifice. As we talk about giving towards the Made for More campaign, it's not comparing who's giving more and all that sort of stuff. But God is not calling us to equal giving, but he's calling us to equal sacrifice. Sacrifice and commitment are throughout the Bible and are inherent to what it means, necessary to what it means to follow Jesus. And this is where the journey that God's taking us on. You see, because it's through our sacrifice that others get blessed. That others begin to know Jesus Christ because we're willing to step out of the box and say, hey, God, use me. And then when he does, we're blessed. But the people we speak to and the people we minister to and show acts of kindness to are blessed as well. The generation that was led out of Egypt missed the blessing. They ended up wandering through that wilderness for 40 years. Because God said to them, listen, you weren't willing to demonstrate faith. You weren't willing to take me at my word. That I'm here, that I'm going to provide, that I'm in this. And so God said, since you do not have that kind of faith, I'm going to leave the blessing to the next generation. And I'm going to have to wait till you all die off, till I can find some people who will believe in me enough to sacrifice and make the steps and move forward into my blessing. And moving into God's blessing isn't moving into a life of ease. It's moving into a life of adventure. It's moving into a life of sacrifice. But that is the blessing. That is the blessing. You see, as we go through Made for More, I want us to know what's at stake. And what is at stake is the lives of people. For too long, I think, at Simi Community Church, we've settled and said, it's great to be us. It's comfortable to be here. But I believe at this moment in history, God is challenging us in these 6 weeks to say, will you live on mission? Will you begin to see the greater things that I have for you and the greater things I want to do through you? There's a sense of urgency that we have as leaders of this church for all of us to grasp onto the mission of Jesus. That it's the eternal lives of people that are at stake. We don't have time to mess around. We don't have time to be self-serving. We don't have time to wonder if it's going to be comfortable or it's going to be easy. Last week, your action step was this: commit to make a commitment. I wasn't asking you to make a commitment, but commit to make a commitment. In other words, I wanted you last week, and if you're here for the first time this week in this campaign, this is today. We don't have time to think, for the next 4 or 5 weeks, am I in on this or am I not? I don't know, maybe I'll think about it. Let's just say, God, from today forward, I'm in. I know you want me to make a commitment to you. I don't know what that looks like, but at the end of this, I'm going to commit to make the commitment. And now we have these, once we decide that in our mind, now we have this time and this space to connect with God through these devotionals, through prayer, to say, God, I've already told you I'm going to make a commitment. Now show me what that commitment is. And again, I want us to keep first and foremost in our mind that what it is about people. So where do we begin? Where to begin? And where we begin is prayer. It begins with prayer because prayer focuses us on God. As we head out on a faith journey, a lot of times our focus is going to be, oh, wow, God, why is this hard? And it's going to be on the hardships and all that sort of stuff. Prayer just says, no, I'm going to bring my focus back to God. I'm going to believe that He's greater. I'm going to believe that He's bigger. I'm going to believe that He's out in front. I'm going to believe that He has a purpose and a plan and that He's big enough. And so we keep our eyes on God. Prayer reminds us that God is big enough. Prayer reminds us that God is worthy. Prayer aligns our heart with the heart of God. And the heart of God is for people. I told you I'd direct your attention to this card. If you all have this on your seat, so I know every one of you has one. Take this out, take a look at it. On the back it says this, it says, we exist so that people far from God will find life in Christ. And then it says, please write the names of 5 or 6 people you are praying will encounter the life-changing power of Jesus. This card right here is probably the most important thing you will fill out, besides your commitment card at the end. Because this card contains the names of people in your life who you want to see their lives changed. There are people that have influenced you, and there are people that you have influence over. I want you to see the last line. It says, my long shot. Do you have somebody in your life that you're just like, yeah, I could pray for them, but there is no way. There's no way they'd ever come to Christ. Not a chance. I want you to write that person's name on that line. The person, there is no chance in the world that no matter how much you talk to them, no matter how much you show kindness to them, there is no way they are receiving Christ. I don't know if you've been following the news on the whole Kanye West conversion. That is astounding to me. But I want, and I don't think it's our place to criticize that or anything like that. It's our opportunity to pray for somebody like that, because he's a person of influence, right? And if that's a genuine conversion, wow. But to me, if I was friends with Kanye West 2 months ago, he would have been in my long shot. If anybody was a long shot, it was Kanye West. But listen to his words right now. I just wrote down this quote that he said. He says, now that I'm in service to Christ, my job is to spread the gospel, to let people know what Jesus has done for me. I've spread a lot of things. There was a time I was letting you know what high fashion had done for me. I was letting you know what Hennessy had done for me. But now I'm letting you know what Jesus has done for me. And in that, I'm no longer a slave. I'm a son now, a son of God. I'm free. That's a long shot. There's a couple things I love about that. One, it shows me the power of God to change a life. Second, it tells me never count anyone out. A little later in the week, this week, I saw a clip on YouTube of Kanye, and I guess it was one on one of those episodes of Keeping Up with the Kardashians. I count myself as one of the proud members of never seeing that show. But it was a conversation between Kanye and Kim. And Kanye was basically saying, I don't want you to wear all those outfits that are too revealing and things like that, because it's basics. It's just not right. We have kids now and all that sort of stuff, and you shouldn't be doing that. And her response to him was just like, hey, you know what? I know you're on this journey. I'm not in the same place. And typically, I'm not one to pray for celebrities. I don't know, maybe you do, and that's great. But all of a sudden, I watched that, and I began to say, God, Kim's a long shot. And I'm going to pray for her. Who in your life is a long shot? One that would never, ever, ever come to Christ. Don't you dare doubt the power of God. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to take that card with the pencil in the seat back in front of you or with your own pen. I want you to begin. I'm going to give you a few minutes here. We're going to play some music, but I'm going to give you a few minutes here to begin to prayerfully write down names. And write down your long shot. And then once you do, what I'm going to ask you to do is I'm going to ask you to come and put that card in here. As a sacrifice to God, to say, God, I'm taking this serious. I know people matter. I know people matter to you, and these people matter to me, and the people I'm writing this card matter to you, and I'm just going to put this in here. And this is going to be here for the next 5 weeks to remind us that Made for More, what's it about? It's about people. It's about people coming to faith in Jesus Christ, and it's about us saying, God, I will be on mission for that. I'm all in for that. Another thing I'd encourage you to do, which I'm going to do, which somebody said to me this morning, and I thought, that's a great idea, is before you turn in your card, get your phone, take a picture of it so you don't forget who's on the card. So I'm gonna take a picture of mine right now. Why is it in night mode? That's weird. I can't figure out my camera. Whatever. Okay, I took the picture. All right, so take a picture because I don't want you to forget who's on your card. And then you can take your phone and something else you can do with that picture, if you're all tech savvy and everything, you can take that picture and make it your wallpaper. And then every time you open up your phone, you'll go, oh yeah, I'm supposed to pray for those people. So take a picture, make it your wallpaper, and then every time you open your phone, you're going to be praying for these people. And my prayer is that before we end this campaign, some of the people on the names in this box will be here and will know Jesus. Because don't expect to write these names down and pray for them and then don't expect God not to open up a door for conversation. We just have to say, hey, I'm made for more and I'm all in. And so when God gives me that opportunity, I'm going to share my faith with him. And so right now, I'm just going to begin us in prayer, and then I want you to continue in prayer for a little while. Fill out these cards, and when you have them filled out, come and put them in the box. God, we thank you that you have made us for more. God, we thank you that your heart is for people. And God, I pray even right now that you would make our hearts like yours. Lord, as we look at these cards and as we prayerfully consider the people that maybe you're already working in, God, I pray that you would give us a heart for these people even greater than we already have. I pray that you would give us even opportunities this week and in the next several weeks to share with them and to talk to them about Jesus. And so, Lord, this time is yours. Take our hearts. In Jesus' name.